Good morning, friends. Today we have a lot to harvest. This is probably one of the last big harvests of the summer. We have our little garden helper out here, so if you hear her, she's running around chasing bubbles right now. But the peaches are ready, the pluots are ready, and I'm going to try to pick as much as I can because the weather is going to be really nice just today and tomorrow, and then it's going to go back to being gross and like 100 degrees again. So I'm going to try to get as much as I can. We're also starting to see a lot of bug pressure just because of the heat. I'm seeing spider mites. I know there's a tomato hornworm on the tomatoes that are up on that arch trellis right there. I'm going to try to find it. And I've just been starting to see things kind of wilt in the heat. So I want to harvest as much as I can. If I see anything that's like covered in spider mites, I'm going to pull it. But let's just go see what we can get. And before I put on some background music, just so you guys can sit back and enjoy harvesting throughout the garden, I did want to share that this was pretty much the last big harvest of summer. It has just gotten way too hot for me to be able to go outside regularly and stay on top of the harvest. So I got the majority of the things that really needed to get picked. But there were a handful of things in the weeks that followed this video where I just lost a few things. So a few tomatoes fell off the vines, a few pluots fell off the tree, and I just wasn't able to get to it all. So I just wanted to say, if you are in that position, feel free to leave a comment below, but just don't feel bad. We get what we can from the garden. And when it's regularly 105 outside, and I have a little person to be considering when I'm going out in that heat, it's just not feasible for me to get every single thing that's coming out of my garden. I wish I could, but sometimes I just can't. So if that's you and you occasionally miss a thing here or there, don't feel bad about it. That's just part of nature. Some creature out there probably got to enjoy anything that I missed. Otherwise, it ended up in the compost. But the vast majority of things I was able to harvest. So let me know if you guys are experiencing crazy heat right now too, and you are just kind of letting some things go in the garden, like weeds. The weeds have gotten crazy. But I would love to know that I'm not alone, and I am here to tell you that you are not alone if you are in the same position. One of you reminded me that I could use this when I harvest from these trees, and it was a brilliant idea, so I'm going to do that now. Doesn't look like any of the onions are ready yet. Oh, just kidding. Got one. One red onion. And then we have a handful of baby butternut squash. That are very tiny and cute. Another onion. All right, so I went ahead and picked this little Jilby little pumpkin because something started eating it. So I'm hoping that these spots will kind of crust over. If not, it's compost. All right, I put the apron back on because I ran out of baskets and I spotted a few tomatoes ready in here. These are the San Marzanos and this thing is loaded. So most of the fruit is still green, but there's a few ripe ones in here. And they're pretty good size. All right, and I had to grab my gloves for this because these are spiky. This is a small, supposed to be a small summer squash. It's ronde-niche or something like that. They're supposed to be little, round, like zucchinis. And I let this one get a little too far, but it's not super big, so I think we'll still be able to get something really yummy out of this. And lastly, we got this little guy to harvest. Okay, so that is it for today. I'd say we got a pretty good harvest. I was expecting it to be big, but this is still more than I expected. We've got way more pluots than I thought we were gonna get. There's still a handful on the tree. I just couldn't pick them all. It's hot and I'm tired and I didn't want to get them all. I did get most of the peaches. I only left on a few peaches, maybe 10 or so that are just still a little bit green. I grabbed a handful of the Flavor Grenade pluots because they are starting to change color and get a little bit soft. So I did grab a decent amount of those, but there's still hundreds left on the tree. But I think those will probably ripen more as the weeks go along. Got a lot of tomatoes, tomatillos. Well, not a lot of tomatillos, got a lot of tomatoes. Got some tomatillos and some peppers. I don't know what else is in this bowl. A bunch of stuff got buried at the bottom. And got some zinnias so we can make a bouquet, and the different types of squash. So mostly winter squash right there, except for this one, which is a summer squash. And I'm really hoping this little tiny pumpkin survives, but we'll see. It does look like it's starting to dry out, but I'm hoping I'll be able to salvage it because it's just a decorative pumpkin, so I just won't show that side of the pumpkin. I'll just show this side. But I do still have a handful more growing out there, so I'll get some cute ones. And this is actually the smallest one. The ones I have growing out there are a little bit bigger. So, oh, and I got obviously a ton of basil. We've been getting this much basil every week. Oh yeah, and don't forget the onions. We've been really enjoying a lot of fresh onions, so that's been great. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I really enjoy having you guys here in the garden. I'd love to hear what's growing in your garden right now. What are you getting out of the garden? Are you starting to prepare for fall? I know I'm feeling the pressure to start getting something planted for fall, and I haven't quite done it yet. But I would love to extend my harvest as long as I can. So I would love to know how you're doing that. And if you want to come along for the journey and see my monthly updates and just what we're doing in the garden, little harvests like this and other updates, feel free to subscribe, and I'd love to have you around. So once again, thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye, friends.